Good afternoon, fellas. Hello, everyone. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Assassin Rogue in the 2024 Player's Handbook for D&D 5th Edition. I've wanted to make this video for a while, or at least something kind of like it, and I spent a ton of time, I guess, scripting and trying to make sure that everything was perfect. You know, I'm like, oh, how am I going to edit this? How am I going to do all of this? And every time that I did that, I feel like I kind of was just pushing it back. I was constantly not very happy with it. So we're just gonna kind of do this. I'm gonna have this up on the screen, and you know, we'll kind of filter between a couple different things. But yeah, we're kind of just going off script. So let's just get right into it. Assassin Rogue. Assassin Rogue is a subclass that has been pretty bothersome, I would say, pretty troublesome in the history of 5th edition. You know, back in 2014, and I'll try not to talk about 2014 too much. It was pretty contingent on the surprise condition, and at least from my own personal experiences, I feel like a lot of the times it ended up being at odds with the DM. Of trying to like get your subclass to work by surprising, you know. There were definitely a couple arguments at the table where the rogue would fight with the DM about, oh, well, I was hidden, so they should be surprised, and things like that. So it looks like they've kind of rectified that this time around. I think that they were cognizant of that and tried to make things as not up to interpretation as possible. I actually did a lot of research for this video back when I was thinking of scripting it and really turning it into something. But to my knowledge, a lot of the issues that people have with this subclass is that it's pretty much useless. It's pretty useless after the first turn of combat, or not necessarily useless, but it loses a lot of its abilities after its first turn of combat, and so it's very Alpha Strike heavy, but doesn't quite do a good job as that. A job at that, pardon. Compared to something like a Gloomstalker or whatnot. So yeah, let's just, I guess I'm just gonna go ahead and read through it. We'll look at a few of the other things that it comes with. Right off the bat, you can see that this is, well, it's definitely a pretty sparse subclass. You get your typical 4 different things from your subclass, and I could go on a rant about how much I really hate how rogue subclasses are spaced out. I think that getting your first ability at level 3 and then your next at level 9 is pretty awful. I think most other subclasses, it's 6 or 7, I believe. You get your second subclass ability, and so having to wait until level 9 is really rough. Being able to like get things like cutting strikes in between is nice, and uncanny dodge and evasion, but it just feels really bad, I think, to have a subclass that doesn't well, to not really have a second ability until you're, you know, halfway through a 1 to 20 campaign. Some campaigns end before this, but I'm getting distracted. That will happen a lot. So yeah, let's just go ahead and hop right into it. Level 3 Assassinate. You're adept at ambushing a target, granting you the following benefits. Initiative. You have initiative, you have advantage on initiative rolls. I mean, I think that it's good. I feel like this is pretty good. I think that, you know, one of the things that you're gonna see with the subclass is you very much want to be going early in initiative, and, I believe that it maths out to that advantage is about a plus 3.5 to your initiative, which is good. Going first as a rogue is important, and just generally in D&D, going first is super important, because not only do you get to sort of set the pace of combat, but you also get to react first to what everyone is doing. You know, you get to see a full round of combat and how things develop before you begin to act, which is very useful. I feel like it's also good because rogues will naturally have high initiative because they're pumping dex, and they'll probably have 20 dex by, oh no, rogues don't get an ASI at 6, right? I don't believe they do. You'll have 20 dex by level 8. So I think it's pretty good. I think that um, being able to roll multiple times with such a high bonus, and if you're playing an assassin, I feel like you're probably going to end up taking alert, which early game isn't as strong as it was in 2014, but with alert, I do believe that by the time you get this, it'll be a +2. By level 5, it'll be a +3. So it's a lot of bonuses. I think that initiative is fine. There's parts of me that kind of wishes there's a flat bonus so that you can very consistently go high in initiative, but that also has its problems. I mean, you could roll bad on both dice, but if it's a flat bonus and you roll bad on one die, then you're kind of screwed. So, but no, I think that this is a good way to really allow the assassin to do what it wants to do. It's nothing very exciting, that's for sure, but it's something that you'll use every combat and will help you out a lot every combat. Surprising strikes. During the first round of each combat, you have advantage on attack rolls against any creature that hasn't taken a turn. If your sneak attack hits any target during that round, the target takes extra damage of the weapon's type equal to your rogue level. I don't know, dude. I don't really. I've got a few feelings on this, I suppose, and they're not all bad. But the most glaring issue, I suppose, is that this is only during the first round of each combat, right? You will only use this once in a combat. And even when you kind of compare that to other abilities like rage, like the sorceress power, I forget the name of it. That a sorcerer gets, things that are going to be used per combat. Just having advantage on the one attack roll is pretty underwhelming. For a rogue, it's not bad because you will get sneak attack on that, and I mean it's basically guaranteed to get sneak attack on it if you hit with the advantage, of course. And I think that's an issue that a rogue might normally have, is that if they roll high in initiative, their marshals are still kind of near the back. So they would have to, they would have to basically use steady aim or some other way to get advantage in order to get the sneak attack on the first turn. And, this does rectify the need with steady aim of, now you can move in your first turn. So it's not bad. Once you get your cunning strikes later, it's pretty good. And I mean, yeah, I don't know, if you fight someone and you trip them on their first turn, or you poison them on your first turn, it can definitely set the pace, I think, for a combat. I think that it is pretty good at setting pace. But it is, of course, the issue that it's only once per combat. I feel like so many other subclasses get things that are consistently helping them. Look at, like, it's tough to compare it, but like Battle Master, right? Battle Master gets a ton. Soul Knife gets a lot, and Thief gets some very fun abilities, being able to consistently, I guess weaponize is a weird word, but use your bonus action to use tools and things like that, and magic items. And what's the other rogue sub? Arcane Trickster, they get spell casting, so it does feel like it's not very much a lot. To only be able to get something on your first round of combat. The extra damage equal to your rogue level, this one, I kind of get what they're going for. I understand. Pardon. I understand that they want it to be flat damage. It feels bad to roll low, but I do feel like this damage is almost always lacking, and it's always behind what you'd want it to do. Once you get this at level 3 extra damage isn't a ton. I feel like 3 extra damage isn't really going to make or break the difference with something. By level 5, once people are starting to get extra attacks and fireballs and whatnot, it's doing 5 extra damage. At the point that it deals 9 extra damage, you're kind of wrapping up tier 2, and it just feels like the scaling on this is always lower than what you would like it to be. So I don't know. I do wish it was more damage. I wish that maybe you added your proficiency bonus or an extra modifier to it. But as it is, for something you're only going to be using once per combat, it is quite underwhelming. And this is kind of what I was talking about earlier with the whole Alpha Strike aspect of the Assassin Rogue. in that it's if you're going straight for damage, it's not really a ton, right? Um, Once you do get cunning strikes, again, it's not nearly as bad. But I don't know. I just think that overall surprising strikes is a pretty underwhelming ability. You'll kind of see later why I think that, but as it stands, I think if you took the subclass at level 3, you'd be kind of disappointed. Because you'd only get this pretty much once a combat. But you also do get proficiency in a Disguise Kit and Poisoner's Kit. You also gain them, so if you level up in the woods, maybe you'll find them. But you do gain them, which is kind of nice. You know, a Disguise Kit is 25 gold pieces, a Poisoner's Kit is 50, so you're saving 75 gold. Disguise Kits, you can craft a costume, which gives you advantage to impersonate. You also get proficiency bonus to any ability check you make to use it. So, really, I guess it's just applying makeup. If you wanna, I guess if you wanna impress the bard at the local tavern. I think the more useful one though is definitely. I hate D&D. Sorry. I think the more useful one is definitely the Poisoner's Kit. You can craft poisons, basic poisons. They're a bonus action. They deal a D4 on hit, which is, damage is damage. It's not terrible. And you can also use it to detect a poisoned object, which, could be good if you're in an intrigue campaign. And I do think that's where the assassin really shines, is those sorts of intrigue campaigns where, you might be getting fed poison ham or be handed a poisoned glass of wine, things like that. It's never bad to have tool proficiencies, and this one kind of just gives them to you. One thing I want to note is you can kind of see that this is the entire subclass right here. This is the whole subclass right here, and you look at something like a soul knife, and yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. I actually haven't looked at 2024 soul knife. This is the Tosh's one, but it's kind of ridiculous, I suppose. It's weird to say power creep because this came out in 2024, but I guess just the options that other subclasses get, it's kind of nuts. We can go into level 9 though. I think that might as well move on before I yap too much. Infiltration expertise. You're an expert at the following techniques that aid your infiltrations. Masterful mimicry. Pardon. You can unerringly mimic another person's speech, handwriting, or both if you've spent at least 1 hour studying them. This is another one of those ones that I feel like is really useful in an intrigue campaign. If maybe you sneak into a banker's house and study their handwriting, and then you can write letters as them. But truth be told, I feel like I've never really run into a situation where I thought that something like this would be useful. A lot of the times, I think that, at least in the games that I play, it might be different for most people, but the DMs kind of have a way that certain things are going to go, and I feel like it's kind of griefing them. I suppose, if you were to like go in and all of a sudden the king is sending out missives to people to oh yeah, we're gonna assassinate this guy. I think it's interesting. It's definitely interesting, but it can pretty quickly turn a campaign topsy-turvy, I feel. I don't know. I think that this is cool. I think this is a fun flavor thing to have, to work in the shadows to assassinate someone. There's character assassination, and well, that's more of a literary term, but work to basically deal with and assassinate these people. I just don't know how useful it is in a lot of campaigns. I think if you're in a campaign that maybe revolves around a city, and you don't really leave it, that would be pretty good. But by level 9, you're probably going on pretty big adventures. You look at oh gosh, I'm gonna date myself here, but you look at things like Storm King's Thunder, or Rise of Tiamat, or even the Prince of the Apocalypse, and the amount of times you'd use something like this is pretty low. This does seem to be something that would do well in, say, oh my gosh, what is the name of that campaign? The Candlekeep one. a golden vault, or like Waterdeep Dragon Heist. But the issue with that is you're getting this at level 9, right? It's pretty late that you're getting this, and I think a lot of the times that you're going to be in cities is probably early levels. So I just don't think you really get Masterful Mimicry value a lot of the times. And then Roving Aim. Your speed isn't reduced to 0 by using Steady Aim. So there's actually a pretty silly little issue with this, and that's your speed isn't reduced to 0, but and I'm sure that this will never be an issue, but if you look at Steady Aim here, as a bonus action, give yourself advantage on next attack roll. You can use this feature only if you haven't moved, so you would have to declare the Steady Aim before you move. But I doubt any DM is going to be too harsh on that. I do think this is kind of, I guess, redundant. I don't really vibe a ton with Roving Aim because I think the general vibe of what you want to do as a rogue is take out targets and constantly pelt them with a lot of damage. You already have advantage on your first attack of your turn, right? With surprising strikes, and if you look at rogue, they get weapon masteries. Nearly every rogue I've played with, and I think the general norm for rogues is to use rapiers or a short sword or a hand crossbow if they can, or a short bow if they don't get longbow proficiency. And these all have vex, which basically make it so that you consistently are giving yourself advantage. You are constantly giving yourself advantage. And so really the only time that you will use Roving Aim is whenever you switch targets, which is kind of counter to what a rogue wants to do in terms of you just want to DPS down this one person. I guess it's good if there's a ton of ads in a fight. Sorry, I'm using like MMO terms, but if there's like a ton of ads or something like that in a fight, it's pretty good for like if you want to keep moving while also having advantage to like pick them off and dealing, at this level you're what, 9, so that's an extra 5d6. It's a lot of damage, but I don't know, I just feel like this is kind of redundant, and I think it reflects something Wizards of the Coast does, where they never want to give just a flavor, like a level up that gives you flavor, right? They feel like they need to add something that is combat relevant. And I'll be honest, I don't think this one was super well baked. It kind of just feels like something they tacked on, like, oh, yep, okay, yep, throw that in there. It basically guarantees perma advantage with your bonus action, which sounds good in theory, but I do feel like there's already a ton of ways at this point that you're getting advantage on your attacks. And the situations where you have to move as well as, get advantage when you wouldn't already have it are pretty low. I don't know. I don't really vibe a ton with Roving Aim. I think it's just such a weird little thing to tack on there. Level 13 is Envenom Weapons. Now this is the one that I flip-flop a lot on. And it's simply because what it does is when you use the poison option of your Cutting Strike, which you get at level 5, the target also takes 2d6 poison damage if it fails the saving throw. And this damage ignores resistance to poison damage. And the reason I flip-flop a lot on this is that Poison Cutting Strike is a Constitution saving throw. And Poison Condition is quite strong. What it does is disadvantage on attack rolls and skill checks. It is quite a strong condition to inflict, but it does require a Constitution saving throw. And by this point, by the time you're already at level 13, I can close this. By the time you're at level 13, most of the big enemies you will be fighting already, they will more than likely have high Constitution saving throws. Most big enemies do have very high Constitution saving throws, and it's based off the DC is based off of your dexterity, right? So at level 13, that's what, 8 plus 5 plus 5, 18. It's good, but a lot of enemies are going to be having plus 9s, plus 10s to their con saves. So the chances of you getting this on a big enemy are relatively low. One thing that I feel like people will mention is that it does apply the damage each time they fail their saving throw. So if you shoot someone and they fail the saving throw for the next minute, they will take 20d6 damage. But of course, the chances of that are astronomically low, and if you're not killing something that is failing a con save within 10 turns, I think there's other issues. I guess another thing is that it does refund the damage and add one. Cutting strikes take away from your sneak attack pool, but they do so yeah, this one takes like 1d6 away. This one adds 2d6 poison damage to your rolls. And sorry, one thing I forgot to mention is that a lot of enemies also have, while this does ignore resistance to poison damage, a lot of them do have advantage against being poisoned. So they will make that con save at advantage. And you might be thinking that like, oh, well then you're kind of just using poisoned every single time, right? And I don't know, because I feel like at this point, even against like, if you're fighting like a big dragon, let's say, and you know for a fact you're not going to poison it. I just feel like you're not really going to use this on extra enemies, because at that point you're probably just going to be doing enough damage to kill them in one hit. But, you know, and this is why I say I flip-flop on it, because if you're fighting with like a few different enemies, and you know, it could be very useful to poison them, and being able to just throw this out every turn is very strong and constantly force saves. So that's why I kind of flip-flop on it. I think that at the end of the day, I think it's pretty good. It's not bad by any means, but I just don't think it's remarkable. I think it's so strange for this to be a level 13 feature. It's just not very remarkable, in my opinion. I think you probably could have moved this up to level 9, and then had a completely different level 13. I'm not a game designer, so don't ask me to choose what the other thing would be, but yeah, that's kind of just my opinion. I think that it's good. I think it's something you will consistently use, contrary to a lot of the rest of the subclass, but I definitely think that it could, I don't know, I'm not a game designer, but I think that it's just not really enough, I suppose. It's not really enough, in my opinion. And then finally, sorry, level 17 Death Strike. When you hit with your sneak attack on the first round of combat, I already want to say that having a capstone that is only relegated to the first round of combat is terrible. I think that having your capstone ability and you can only use it once per combat is and this is considering that you hit the target, you know, and of course you have advantage on it, and you're probably going to hit it at this point. That you hit the target, that you roll high enough initiative to go before it, which granted you get help with advantage on initiative rolls. And the target must succeed on a Constitution saving throw. But if you can manage to hit the target, apply sneak attack to it, and it's the first round of combat, your attack deals double damage, which that's a lot of damage. That is a lot of damage. At this level 17, if you hit with surprising strikes, it's 17 damage, and doubled it would be 34. You're doing, oh goodness, how many sneak attack is at level 17? Is there a chart here? I suppose not. What is that, 8d6? I think it's 8d6, yeah. 8 or 9d6. So that's doubled. It's a lot of damage. But the big issue is that it is a Constitution saving throw. So you're faced with this sort of strange dilemma that I think is pretty awful to have to force a player into, of, do you want to use this on the main enemy of a combat, right? Do you want to use this on say, the big dragon or the lich? Because at level 17, you're probably fighting some insane things. Do you want to use this on those? And then you hit, and then they legendary resist it? It could be a legendary resistance burner, which is pretty, you know, everyone wants one of those. But at that point, it's like, well, I don't have a capstone. My capstone is burning a legendary resistance. Or you could use this on, say, a spare enemy on the side in a combat. And I don't know. It just feels strange to have this assassinate ability that you think would be super strong. It's your first round of combat. You only get it once per combat, and it's conditional on quite a few things. And to use it on someone like off to the side, I think is so strange. I think that it's like, oh yeah, I'm the alpha striker, but not on the main target we want to kill, right? I don't know. I just think that there's way too many conditions for this to be. It's good, I guess. I mean, double damage is nothing to sneeze at, right? So like, it's good. It's just like, I don't really see this being meaningful. Because I think if you're, let's say you're fighting a wizard on the side, at this level, you're dealing so much damage anyway, that they're probably going to fall over even without the double damage. And the issue at that point isn't so much, am I doing enough damage? It's, am I able to hit them? You know, maybe it's a wizard with shield or a wizard that has a wall of force or things. The issue isn't the amount of damage you're dealing. It's getting there to deal that damage. And so, I don't know. I just think Death Strike is... I really don't see a lot of the times where it's going to be particularly useful. I think that the problem with this subclass is that it doesn't fulfill what an assassin wants to do. It feels weird to say, yes, I am the assassin of the group. I bring swift death. What does it say up here? Practice the grim art of death, but not on the main target we're fighting, on one of his lackeys. Because, I don't know. I just feel like there's so many conditions where, you know, surprising strikes might not work. Maybe the target you want to assassinate rolls higher in initiative than what? You know, if your target has a legendary resistance, Death Strike is simply not going to work. And you can also envenom weapons as well, but that's, you know, the issue is that is assuming they fail their Constitution saving throw, and a lot of the big enemies you'd want to assassinate do have high Constitution saving throws. So I don't know. I think that perhaps, maybe I'm thinking about this wrong. Maybe I'm thinking about it in the sense that you shouldn't be aiming for the big threats on the board, and instead are trying to wipe out the little munchkins on the side, which, you know, you do that really well the first turn of combat, but once you get past that, this surprising strikes is gone, and Death Strike is gone. And then you're just a base class rogue with envenom weapons and roving aim, which just doesn't really seem very good. I don't know. And I think this is one of those subclasses where I would definitely have to try it and play it. To really get a vibe with it. I'm curious if anyone has played an assassin, what it was like, because, you know, it's really easy, I think it's really easy to say something is bad, and then you go to play it, and it's actually not. I played an Arcane Archer back in 2014, and everyone said it was terrible, but it actually felt pretty good to play, so... I don't know. Maybe this feels good to play, but it seems like it's only... It seems like it's a subclass on the first round of combat, and then not much else. It seems like it needs to be in a particular type of campaign with something like Masterful Mimicry. This just feels like a subclass that if a player chooses it, they're going to want to ask for more. They're going to want to ask, like, oh, can I use my Poisoner's Kit to make other poisons? Things like that. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I can just end up being very redundant about it, but I would say on paper, the subclass, it's good. It's not bad. You get advantage on every attack with roving aim, assuming you don't want to use anything else. You get a lot of damage on your first turn, and you get tool proficiencies and advantage on initiative rolls. It's all of these things that are, like, good on paper, but in practice, I just can't help but feel like it's it's not very good, nor is it really fun. And I think that's a big issue. Is I think a subclass can be not good if it's fun. This one just doesn't seem very fun. And I guess those are kind of my final thoughts on it. Wow, I didn't expect the time to fly like this, but yeah, that's gonna do it for me. This is a very experimental video, so if you guys enjoyed it, I guess not to do the YouTube thing, but feel free to let me know or whatnot. But yeah, thanks. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and we'll see you all later. Goodbye.